Hello, my name is Natalie Morales, and today I will be looking at teaching plagiarism in the 21st century. So, in order to do this, I will be answering three questions. First, why students plagiarize. Second, what exactly is plagiarism? And third, how can teachers reduce plagiarisms in their classrooms and in schools? In order to answer these questions, I must first state that education will make all the difference. Open and honest communication will open the doors to eliminating plagiarism. Putting a positive spin on the topic will be what will make the difference. And developing a curriculum for students to practice citing will help students in their future and may help prevent acts of plagiarism. So moving on to my first point. Before we answer the questions I have, we must first look at why exactly students cheat in the first place. Well, first, there, of course, is an endless amount of information constantly available to everyone, to teachers and students. Because of this information available via the internet, acts of plagiarism have been easier to commit. According to Ma, Wan, and Lu in 2008, quote, the internet produces vast amounts of information, yet at the same time provides opportunities for simple copying and pasting of other people's work, unquote, from page 199. So the internet is essentially good, but access to endless information has made it easier to take another person's work as one's own. When this poses a problem, however, it is not the only reason why students cheat. There are other excuses that students use. For instance, students may not understand an assignment, or they may have ran out of time or do not have enough time or would like to save time. As far as not understanding an assignment, this might be because there has not been clear communication from the teacher and questions are left unanswered for students. So, how can this be resolved? Of course, through clear communication. The reasons mentioned earlier, like like lack of lack of communication, do not have to be an excuse whenever teachers take the responsibility and adequately discuss what plagiarism is and the consequences of plagiarism. These the consequences, of course, may provide fear for students, but taking the time to educate students should help to calm the fears. Such consequences are usually identified within the student handbook, and different school districts have different consequences. Of course, teachers may also develop their own consequences and discuss these with students. Um, Another aspect, though, that needs to be discussed is the use of detection software technologies if they are in place. Such technologies help to detect plagiarism from different works. For example, our school district uses the program SafeAssign. This helps to catch plagiarism, and whenever students know that these programs are in place, then they may actually be less likely to commit acts of plagiarism. According to Heckler of 2013, quote, detection systems can be useful in deterring plagiarism outright, unquote, from page 231. So students who know that these technologies are in place may not be so easily tempted by plagiarism in the first place. So this is why teachers need to have clear communication and state their expectations, because students then know that their work is going through a review process and that they are expected not to cheat. However, of course, we have been looking at plagiarism and exactly how communication plays a role in it. But what exactly is plagiarism? Is there a clear definition? Well, there actually might not be. Plagiarism within school settings often does not have a clear definition that students can understand. Because of this, it is important for teachers to develop a working definition with students. Students can play a role in defining what plagiarism means. And and when they understand what plagiarism means, then they can know when to avoid it and when to cite properly. After all, if students clearly understand the meaning of what plagiarism entails, then ignorance of the subject cannot be used as an excuse. A quote from Vernon, Bigna, and Smith in 2001, quote, most people agree that the primary problem is that students and people in general do not really understand the meaning of plagiarism, unquote, from page 1. So clearly, like describing a definition with students will help to reduce acts of cheating. Um, so of course, plagiarism might not have a clear definition, as I mentioned, but there are different forms of plagiarism that Bennett, Burdett, and Boothby of 2011 identified. The first being paraphrasing and not properly citing a work. Second, failure to cite direct quotes or third, using information as one's own. And fourth, using a peer's work as one's own. Perhaps by taking the time to have students develop a similar working definition that has these different forms of plagiarism within it might help prevent it in the future. Not only can students develop a working definition and discuss plagiarism, but teachers can talk with students about plagiarism in a positive way. Oftentimes, whenever teachers discuss plagiarism, it is seen as negative because the consequences are discussed, and it's looked at as what students should not be doing. They should not be cheating. They should not be taking the work of another's. And then these are the consequences. This is what's going to happen. That is what's focused on. But instead of doing this, teachers should make it positive by stating that it is the student's responsibility to uphold an academic integrity. Cavadallo of 2010 writes, academic integrity should not be defined negatively by what they may not do, but rather by what they must do. Unquote from page 55. What students must do is uphold an academic integrity. Of course, the consequences of plagiarism are true, and They can be discussed, but they should not be the focus. Using scare tactics to persuade students not to cheat whenever they have not even cheated does not seem quite right. Instead of focusing on plagiarism, the focus should be on upholding academic honesty. The student themselves is choosing not to plagiarize because they are taking the responsibility to cite and use information in a correct way. So after um, discussing a definition of plagiarism and eliminating negativity associated with the topic, then the issue can be further taught by teachers. Students are better prepared to address issues of plagiarism whenever they have had practice with citing and identifying what plagiarism is. So teachers can develop a curriculum on top of making education of plagiarism more positive and having open and honest communication. Teachers can take it a step further and give students the practice that they need and the tools that they need to practice citing correctly. Such an act can, quote from Vernon, Bigna, and Smith, 2001, quote, empower students to use the resources found on the web in a responsible and unambiguous way, unquote, from page 194. Students will then know how to use the information to their benefit while appropriately citing material. Of course, there are different tools and resources out there to help students and teachers. One source is Purdue OWL. This gives information of how to cite sources correctly using either APA or MLA. Another resource is plagiarism.org, which provides vast amounts of information about how to inform students of what plagiarism is and how to cite correctly. It also gives links to different websites that may help students with citing. So there are clearly different resources out there to help empower students to use information correctly. In conclusion, I have answered 3 questions. The first being why students plagiarize. Of course, we looked at how the internet plays a role in this and how vast information and other excuses that students use may be reasons why students plagiarize. The second question I answered is what is plagiarism? We discussed that there are 4 different ways that students plagiarize, but that plagiarism may not have an exact definition. We also looked at how plagiarism can be discussed by teachers and students working together to develop a definition in their classroom. Last, I looked at how teachers can reduce plagiarism. Of course, plagiarism can be eliminated when teachers give clear expectations and provide feedback for what they need or want from an assignment. Acts of plagiarism aren't ever likely to disappear, but when students have a better understanding of the concept, then they will be better equipped to face the challenges and temptations that plagiarism and the internet provide. Thank you for watching.